Okay, am I ready to go? Okay, just let everyone find their seats. I should say this is my first live presentation I've done in the last couple of years, so I'm very good on Teams, but if I get a little bit nervous or start fidgeting, it's because I'm used to turning my camera off. So first, quick introduction. My name is David Bedford. I'm COO at VX, which is part of the marketing and technologies group of companies. I've got 15 years events and marketing experience myself, and I've spent the last 10 years helping to develop and launch the VX platform, which we first developed as a way of bridging the gap between live shows by building digital twins of physical exhibition stands, uploading content, allowing networking, a bit of live broadcasting, and trying to keep engagement with exhibitors' audiences in between the physical shows that they were going to. So the two key things there are, first of all, we're not here saying that digital or virtual is going to replace physical. We think quite the opposite. And also that we have been in the game of digital and virtual since before the dreaded C word. And as a result of that, I'm going to try to go through this entire 15 minutes talking about virtual events and not mention the C word. So, first of all, I want a little bit of audience participation, and this is the only time I promise. But who in the last 2 years has been to a virtual event? Hardly a surprise. Now, I've got my fingers crossed on this one. How many of you have had a positive experience whilst going to a virtual event? All right, got some friendly faces in the crowd. And I am taking a chance here, but who's had negative experiences when they've gone to a virtual event? But that's fair. The content's not been too easy to access, not very much engagement, networking's been a little bit iffy. It happens. But I want to turn that on its head. In the last 2, maybe 5 years, who's been to a physical event? Well, we're all here, aren't we? Think about it. Have you had a good experience at a physical event? Yeah? But have you ever had a bad experience at a physical event? Poor parking, very expensive, no one was there. Okay, so the point is, I'm not here to tell you that virtual events are good, or that physical events are good, or that virtual events are bad, or that physical events are bad. I'm here to tell you that good events are good, and bad events are bad. It's our job as event professionals to define what makes a good event, and then to deliver that for our clients. So before I get started, I'll quote a few facts and figures in this presentation. Primarily, they're driven from 2 sources. The first is a recent report that was published in Journal magazine by Skiles et al., and it's a database examination of the net effect of virtual events on the MICE industry, looking at how demographics have changed. The second one is by Dr. Chiara Savadi. I'll be upfront, she's one of our employees. However, we did ask her to produce this report as independently as possible, and the reason I include it today is it allows me to talk about facts and figures that are based around the platform that we'll be talking about. It is worth mentioning that her paper has since been cited in several academic journals that have been peer-reviewed. So I would class it as a good resource, and I'm happy to share those resources with anyone who's interested afterwards. Now, back to the matter at hand. 5 steps to great digital events. What have we learned in our 10+ years running this platform that can help you add digital and add virtual to your product catalog that you can offer your clients? I'm more of an operations and a sales guy, and I wanted to call this talk the 5 key considerations you should make to take advantage of the opportunities afforded you by the emerging trend of digital events, and how to support your customers on their journey to the perfect compromise. But the marketing manager wouldn't allow me to do that. What I want to focus on today are the benefits that we can offer you, which is accessibility, cost effectiveness, visitor engagement, aesthetics, and sustainability. Can't talk about digital without talking about sustainability. So first, accessibility, and the obvious advantage of taking an event digital, as Wayne and Chris can attest to from Printing Expo Online, is the global audience. Anyone can access your event that you want to be able to access your event. In this case, they've had 109 visitors from 190 different countries to date. You can see a good percentage in Europe and Americas, but also Asia, Africa and Oceania representing. So it's only Antarctica that we've got to crack. So you've got a global audience, and it can be always on. 2 advantages over physical that are obvious. That's sort of the low-hanging fruit. As Skiles et al. Identified in their paper, Virtual events open up a completely new demographic in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the events that you're running. Their paper found that various demographics were better represented at virtual events than at physical events. Now, that includes ethnic minorities, disabled people, women, single parents, young professionals, financially disadvantaged, and introverts. That is 7 large demographics that are more likely to attend a virtual event than a physical event. So physical is fantastic. We're all here. You can do great business here. But when you're planning an event, or you're planning an event for your customer, your client, ask them, who are they hoping to speak to? Who do they want to engage with? Because if you go the full swing back to physical and you completely discount digital, you might be excluding the people that you specifically want to be talking to. Cost effectiveness. Now, I want to make it clear, I'm not here going, well, virtual events are cheaper than physical events, so therefore they're better. That's comparing apples and oranges, and it's not fair to either platform. Cost effectiveness is not being cheapest. What's more cost effective? A £20,000 event that doesn't hit a single one of its targets, or a £100,000 event that smashes through all of them. It's a £100,000 event. It hits their budget, but it also gets people interested, it keeps people engaged. Cost effectiveness is about measurable return on investment. And that can only be achieved if you have clear goals. So what we do at VX, in addition to supplying a platform, we do supply a full event managed service. And the first questions that we ask is, what are you trying to achieve? Why are you trying to achieve it? And who are you achieving this for? There are 2 general forks in the road when you're planning an event. You might be more of a marketing focus, in which case you're looking for footfall and brand awareness. It might be more of a sales focus, where you're looking for targeted attendees that turn into validated sales leads. Both of these are perfectly valid. However, know what you want to achieve, and then you can work on achieving that. The Travis Perkins event that we ran this year is probably one of the most cost-effective events that we've done to date for our clients. It certainly wasn't the cheapest, but we managed to achieve in 2 days, in a single event, a senior leadership team live update for all employees, live regional huddles for branch managers. We were able to do delegate-to-delegate networking to allow colleagues to speak to each other from around the country. They also had private consultations with HR and other services within the business to allow people to have conversations that they weren't having the opportunity to do while they weren't in the offices. And on top of that, we ran a 75 exhibitor show with all of their suppliers that enabled them to do their business and make their deals for the year ahead. It was a really, really cost-effective event that was run digitally. So the next point that we think is key is visitor engagement. I'm hoping to win a few brownie points with Event Tech Live here by demoing the digital twin virtual conference that we've built for them. Both physical and virtual, you need to be engaging. You need to get your audience interested in what they're listening to. And that requires innovation and a passion for technology, particularly when you're running a virtual event. If we've all been to those bad experiences, we said that, where you went online, you couldn't get onto the conference, or it was very, very dry. There was nothing to do in between the breaks, so you lost interest and you took a phone call. You couldn't network with the people you wanted to network with. So you've got to ask, how are you going to connect? And that means that probably every event you do has to be better than the last. Same with physical. Again, we like to think that we've got an advantage here. While we do own our own platform, which allows us to put very pretty virtual events up online, we are also a solutions-focused business. We aren't only trying to sell a platform, we're trying to sell a service. A lot of the events that we do, we operate using third-party plugins. We've got some great relationships with some of the other exhibitors that are on this show, and we're hoping to make more while we're here. So by using these third-party plugins and by understanding what's around, and by focusing very hard on integration, we're able to offer innovation to our clients. ETL is a great example. We're using this to help to bridge the gap between the physical shows, and particularly between London and between Las Vegas. So there's going to be on-demand content. There's going to be networking sessions. There's a little bit of gamification. We've got a couple of arcade games in there that should keep people interested after this show and let them find out what they missed out on if they couldn't make it here, or just remind themselves. As we get closer to Las Vegas, we'll switch it over and it'll become more of a promotional show that will allow people to see what they might have in store for them in Las Vegas. So it's bridging the gap. It's what we talked about at the beginning of the show. So point number 4 is aesthetics. And I'd just like to do the video, do the talking here. Typical. There we go. All of the renders, all of the videos that you've seen today, we've produced in-house. This is CGI of the University of Leicester's Brookfield campus. And it's pretty damn good. However, if you fail to do the first 3 points I've talked about, if you fail to be accessible, you fail to be cost effective, and you fail to be engaging, all you're doing is rolling it in glitter, and that's not going to impress anybody. If you nail those first 3, make your event beautiful. Make it better than anybody else's. Make it eye-catching. Make it something that people are going to talk about, share on LinkedIn. It all comes back round to you want to be the best. You want to wow people. Just like at a physical event, you want to impress. So as I say, if you come to us, we do pre-rendered content. It's all web-based hosting, which means you don't need to do any downloads of apps. You don't need a fancy gaming PC to run it, and there is no lag necessary. I've got a few minutes left, and I am going to talk about sustainability, which is the elephant in the room when it comes to events. Other than the C word that I won't mention, sustainability is the biggest challenge for the events industry this decade, possibly this century. A couple of facts and figures that aren't comfortable, but we need to be aware of. The carbon footprint for an individual visiting an international conference is approaching 3.26 tons CO2 equivalent. That is the median annual budget allocated per individual by 2030 if we're going to hit global warming targets. To put that in perspective, in 2019, there were 2,670 European trade shows with 75.4 million visitors. That's 1% of the global population's budget spent on attending European trade shows. It can't go on like this. We're not bashing physical, we're here, we're not hypocrites. You need to go and meet people. Physical allows you to do good business. It's good for the economy. It's good for our social interactions. It's good for our mental health. But we, as an industry, need to embrace the tools that allow us to deliver a compromise to our clients. So, I don't know whether I've just told you about 5 steps to great digital events, or the 5 key considerations you should make to take advantage of the opportunities afforded you by the emerging trend of digital events, and how to support your customers on their journey to the perfect compromise. I'll let you decide, and I'll talk to my marketing manager later. But I'd like to leave you with a few thoughts. Celebrate the return to physical, but consider how digital can deliver a fantastic returns for the people that you're working for. Accessibility to a wider demographic. Cost-effective solutions that deliver a measurable return on investment. Year-round customer engagement, aesthetic solutions that you can be proud of, and a sustainable alternative to add to an event's diary. I apologize if I didn't go into too much detail about our platform. We're directed just over there, and I'm more than happy to go into an incredible amount of detail, or you can speak to my CEO, Roland, for a more engaging conversation. I've got 1 minute to take any questions. I'm happy to do so now, or as I say, I will be located just over there having a large drink. Thank you.